Our project actually can sum it up in three initials, PPT. It's about pace, place, and time. And it's really about offering flexibility for our students that have so many issues, so many challenges. The idea of time, we're really hung up on that. We need to, in 3 years, get the kids to graduate. Some kids take a little longer. Some kids can even do it quicker. So it's some flexibility with time, flexibility with the pace in terms of similar to time, but just in terms of how fast they can go through things. And also the place. We have a lot of students who struggle now with anxiety and depression. Large class sizes really stresses some kids out, and for various other reasons, just trying to give different options to have a few more of our students be successful.
For me, I see all of these things that Carlo talked about, the kids that have anxiety, those that need a little bit longer to work on something. They work at a little bit of a slower pace. This allows them to work in a room that they're comfortable. I know we have one girl who, she's got such bad anxiety, she doesn't want to take the bus. So we arrange for a ride for her to get here. She works in our student services room for most of the day, if not all of the day. And so she's able to get her stuff done where she wouldn't be able to function in a regular classroom. And this allows them to help get caught up as well. They can access it anywhere 24/7 as long as they've got an internet connection. So it helps us in student services by we're able to access the classroom teacher's work. So I can just go online and see what they were working on. I can get the rubrics and everything, so I know exactly what the student needs help with, and we can go from there and get them caught up. It also helps to talk about how it also eliminates the old "I don't have it," so then you have to spend the whole class period walking around the school trying to find the teacher and get an extra copy. Now it's just a click of a button, and here it is. We've got all of it, everything you need, and we can get right to work. So that's how it's helped us in student services a lot.
It's not just us trying to get them everywhere. They can take ownership of their learning. The entire year is spread out for them on that course. They can see it. There's no surprises. Every day I have it highlighted what we're doing, so they know to go straight on there. As soon as they open Moodle, whatever activity we're doing that day has popped up. But the more time I've spent with this, the more excited I've got by the different options that are there. It's the days of reading and answering questions are gone. Thank God. I hated English in high school because of that. It's engaging now and it's active, and even kids who don't have a voice that they like to share in class, because I'm a big discussion person, there's a place for them to have that voice silently, and there's so much pressure and so much anxiety for those kids, but everyone gets a chance to share, and it's just way more interactive and engaging, and it's a whole new learning that's come to life.
For sure, the Moodle was something that Jamaican did not have. Like in Jamaica, you have book, pencil, and a chalkboard. That's all we get. So when I come here and they're like, "Oh, you can just go online and get your notes," I'm like, technology has advanced. All I could say. So I was just like, "Oh, this is very helpful." And I miss a day at school, I'm homesick. I just go online on my phone, pop up the Moodle, open the courses. I'm like, I cannot fail now. It's set. So I really did enjoy it. It was a really good change to come into.
I think what it's done more than anything is just let our staff know that it's okay to start thinking outside the box. And don't want to say what you've done in the past is wrong. That's definitely not the approach at all. But just giving them permission, we need to try something different. We need to try to engage more of our kids. Ian talked a little bit about relationship, and that's been our word around here for a long time. Everybody is really hooked on relationships and understands the importance and the value. And so we wanted to do something where we still are able to build that relationship. We're not anti doing everything online, but that's not the direction we wanted to go. It's important that we have that contact with the kids, we build that relationship. That's what they want more than anything. I view education, it's a really simple job. It is that one thing, it is that relationships. But it's an extremely hard job because it is relationships. And so I think that's why we were for years there going back and forth. Do we do more things online? And as Dean mentioned quite a few years ago, he did some courses online. We've tried some things. That wasn't quite the ticket that we wanted either.
Got a lot more into just interactive things, places for them to make videos and post their thoughts orally instead of always having to write it down. A lot of journals, a chance for them just to reflect, because as much as I want to sit and talk about it with them, it's hard to do with 36 kids, but it's a chance for them. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we've been working on Truth and Reconciliation. We watched Secret Paths, we talked about the Indian Act. And each of them took a section of the Indian Act and they posted a response to it. And then one of their tasks was them to go and respond to other people's. I kind of went my way of forcing them to have a conversation about a very difficult topic. And also I found one of the things with my PACE class is it allowed me to step back from being in front of the classroom all the time and to be more of a coach, to watch each of them individually through their assignment and to sit down and have a conversation about a poem individually. And it was a very powerful thing and really great for relationships.
Teaching practice changes slowly, and that came out in the report, and the teacher said we need time to integrate this into our practice. We know from research that it takes about 3 to 5 years to fundamentally change someone's practice. You can add things, but it takes time because you need to reflect and you need to collaborate, and teachers need time and space to do that. And in the pace that we have in schools, sometimes we may not have that. And so I think it's really important that time be built in. I think we're going to see that more in the future in schools, I hope, in terms of having that time built in for teachers to do that work, because it is part of their practice. I've been talking a lot lately about how we think about what a teacher's professional practice is. We have a system that's asking us to do some very different things these days and to have some very different outcomes, but we're still using models and methods that are about 150 years old, and we're starting to shift them. But if we want these different things, we're going to have to look back here at our systems and practices and think really carefully about what do we want teachers to be doing? What should their day look like? Should a teacher be doing stand and deliver for 5 hours a day? Or should they be doing other things? Should they be doing rounds or talking with their colleagues or doing lesson study or doing different things like that? I think another thing that's really important is that this school division and many others are focusing on initiatives for a longer period of time. So it's not we change the initiative every year that has happened in the past. And so to sit with an initiative for 3 years, 5 years, and let it soak into a staff, I think is really critical, and I think it's really important. I've actually had the really good fortune to do some professional development work with this staff about 10 years ago, I think now. Well,
maybe not quite that long,
6,
but a while ago.
10, a while. But this, I can tell that this staff has been on a pretty significant journey in that time, and in terms of what you're exploring, what you're talking about, and that's really exciting. And I think that's the danger in some of these online environments. I've seen that in some of these online environments. It just looks like read the textbook, do the questions over again. And I think those online environments give us a really unique opportunity to design instruction in a different way. And I think people are starting to think about that. And I think that's where teachers need some support, is how to continue to design instruction that is engaging for students, that invites their voice in, that lets you sit in a different place, that allows them to represent their understanding in multiple ways as opposed to everyone do the same thing. And the other thing I think is just breaking that frame that everybody has to be here today, everybody has to be here tomorrow. So stop moving that group at the same time, and recognizing that they don't move at the same time, and having the flexibility to do that. Those are exciting innovations, but those require support. And those require that teachers have time to talk to each other and think together about their practice and try things in a no harm, no foul environment. It's okay to fail forward on some of these things, to try them and say, well, that didn't work, but let's tweak it and see what we can do next time, and to explore and change their practice that way.
Two of the struggles for me, one was you can't always depend on technology. Crashed, 30 people logging on at one time, it would crash. So we had to work that out.
Time was a big factor for us, but I feel that here, because that was something that we were passionate about, they found the time for us to get us together as a group and explain things to us. And Ramona, showed us all the wonderful things you could do with Moodle. Like I said, when I first did my online social course, it was just a dump, like an information dump, and it was read and answer the questions and everyone do the same thing. Now you can do many different things with the forums, little quizzes, videos, all sorts of neat stuff, so people have an option, and it's not just read and answer what I've asked you to answer. And so I think they've done a really great job of showing us all the neat things that we can do with Moodle, and that helps people get on board a lot more too, rather, when they can see all the new things that are happening and how it's going to impact the students and get them engaged as well. I think we do a lot in that we offer them, we give them the resources. I think we can, like Ian said, some of them do need to be taught how to use the resource. We can't just assume that everybody is going to go on to Moodle and be able to navigate it and find what they need to find. So I think we need to do maybe a good job of making sure that everybody's got that tutorial and that they're able to access that information as they need it. But again, they've got to have that want to succeed. If you can say you want to do it, but if you're not really going to put in the effort to do it, then you're not going to be successful. So, but I think if we give them that tutorial and help them to understand how to use it better, we'll get a few more even. And I mean, it's been great even with credit recovery, so you don't have to take the whole class. You pick the parts that you missed while you were gone or whatever, and then you're able to be successful that way and get a credit that way.
What I probably could have suggested is that in order to understand how it worked, I had to approach teachers, and it'd be nicer if they could have probably told me earlier, since they kind of offered it to me and they didn't really know how to use it at first, so I had to go to them. Like teachers like Mrs. Crozier, she gave me a step-by-step through how to work everything. So that was really fantastic. So I didn't really have much problems with it. So I think it's actually pretty good. It's probably like approach the students instead of having them to approach you.
As we move into online environments, the first question comes up. Am I now on 24/7? Am I answering emails at midnight? Am I expected to respond to every inquiry all the time? And so I think it's important that teachers have a way to put a frame around the work that they're being asked to do. And there may be times when you're not online and you're not available, so you can have some time with your family. And I think that's a protection piece that we need to think about. The other part that I've heard about and that we do think about at the Federation is just simply around class size. And so there are situations where a teacher has 60 live students and another 180 virtual ones. I think the other thing that intensifies teachers' time is the more students are in a virtual environment, you're now communicating the same thing one-on-one via typing or however you're doing it, but you're having that same conversation multiple times as opposed to once with a group of people. And that can really intensify a teacher's time because there is an efficiency to having people in front of you in a large group. So balancing that, I think, is a bit of a challenge. And I think just that whole notion of being on all the time. I think it's also a different kind of working and pedagogy. As you're building things in that environment, you have to be a really skilled writer of instruction. Like you need to understand every step in what it is that you're writing, and you have to understand how that links to assessment, and that takes skill. It takes lots of practice, and it's not easy. And it's time intensive that first time you're coming through. And like you said, the initial time was just plop my stuff into Moodle. As you got into it more, you're changing it, you're opening up forums. But every time you open up something like that, now you have a bit more of a management piece where you have to be there and curate that or moderate that or be in that. So it is going to change the way in which teachers work. And I think we need to be, just careful about what that does in terms of if they make sure that they have the time to do that work. And also to be careful that that work day doesn't creep out to 24/7 whenever you want it. Yeah.
So we're really trying to keep that support there for staff so that they know to start. One of the things I've appreciated the most is, and it's exactly what has been said many times, is we started off just dump the stuff on there, just get it on there, and then you start to realize, okay, we've done the, wow, I've got all the stuff on there, but it's really of no value until you start, and it takes so much time, and not everybody has the natural skill sets to be that. I have people who are wonderful classroom teachers, but it's a different skill set that you need to engage students in that environment, and that takes a lot of time to do. Somebody who can stand up in class and tell that engaging story about what happened last night and just sketch everybody and away you go, that's different in that online environment, but you still need to do those kind of things to engage students. So it's forced people to have to really step outside their comfort zone, learn new skills, You can be the best teacher, but that doesn't mean in that blended environment. For some teachers, it scared them having to go in there. Like, I just don't feel comfortable at all. So that, I think, I would say most of my staff is quite comfortable in that environment now, but I get new people every year. And so to keep those people on board and bring them engaged, it's something that I'll have to continue to be supported, and so far it still is, and it's exciting to see that it's not an end, it's not over.
One of the great things about it has been so much easier collaborating. I have not spent in all of my 10 or so years teaching this much time working with other English teachers. And it's been really great to see that and to see what they're doing and to be able to take some of their ideas and share some of my ideas and feel a lot closer to what's going on in the building now, which is really great.
And if it wasn't for the online course, I wouldn't have been able to graduate. And for one of my finals in English, due to we had a book and we had to read it before the finals, but we didn't have enough time, so she gave us a link to the audio version, which was very helpful because I didn't even know there's an audio version for it. So this is actually a really good tool for the students to have. So I wouldn't want to lose that.
Christina would videotape her lesson, so she's giving the lesson to the students and recording it and then putting it on so then they can go back. But I can also go back. So if it's something I haven't done for a little while because I'm doing many different things, I'm not specific to one subject, I can also watch that video and watch her go through it and say, oh, okay, yeah, now I understand, and then that'll help me better help the student as well. So.
Following the voices is about engagement, engaging our students, listening to what they have to say, engaging them in class, but then also now trying to bring that into our blended environment. And we've talked a little bit tonight about how we started, and it was just getting that info. That's really what the focus we're on now. We've been over the last year and a half learning various strategies for engagement. How do we take those same strategies that I'm using in a classroom to engage our students in a blended or an online environment? So even some of our PD this year already has been, I don't know, people don't even know if we're doing following their voices or if we're doing PPT, because we've tried to make it be one and the same. It's really about that same goal, about that engagement, but we want to engage our kids in multiple mediums and in multiple environments.
I was part of Following Their Voices last year, and again this year, is strategies and doing things to make it interactive and engaging, and that's one of the things with Moodle, I can do that.
But yeah, it's just trying to get the kids engaged and wanting to continue to learn. So.
There is, across the province right now, a re-examination of what it is that students require to graduate. We're having a look at what those credit requirements are and thinking carefully about, are those what our students need today? So people are asking the question, what do you need to have a grade 12 education? I think as we've entered into these blended learning environments and are doing things in a different way, there's also recognition that there's a set of skills that students need to be successful both in the online environment and also in class. And so I think initially when we entered into these online environments, some students got sent there that may or may not have had the skills to work in that environment. And I think people have now recognized that doing a blend is probably a better way to go, because it allows those skills to be developed over time and it allows that relationship to exist with the teacher in a different way. Lots of work going on across the province around building relationships with students and making sure that those are strong. And again, in many different ways. So allowing students to feel welcome in school and making sure that we're looking at our environments to ensure that these are welcoming places. The provincial focus has been on three-year grad rates, but I think they're moving away from that, from what I've heard. And I think that's good. And looking at 5-year grad rates, because for lots of students, they need that extra little bit of time to finish up, because they have other things going on. They might have children, they might have jobs. They might be caring for someone in their family. So lots going on that school needs to accommodate, and we have them under legislation until they're 22. So it's important that we do the best job that we can with them while we have them. And I think we need to. I'm appreciating the shift away from a 3-year graduation rate focus, and I hope they keep going down that track. On the other side of that, when I look provincially at the plans that the ministry has and that they're measuring, they measure success by lots of outcome measures, and rarely do we see reporting and measurement on inputs into the system. And I'd love to see way more conversation at the front end of the system. So if we want this over here, what are we putting into the system over here to have that happen? So what is going into the system to ensure that students have success? So what kind of supports and resources are going in? What kind of supports and resources are going to teachers and into instruction that allows teachers to do a different kind of work? And how can we measure that? When we think about students and their lives, what might an interministerial focus be? What's going into their lives? How are we working with things like poverty, racism, addressing the fact that we have students who are one generation away from parents who went to residential school, and that school is not a great place for their parents to come, and they may have been hearing a narrative about school that is different than some other students, right? And so what needs to be invested into the community, and how does the government measure that investment, as well as look at how things are doing in terms of grad rates. But if we're not paying attention to what's going into the system, I'm not sure it's fair to just look at what we hope to have come out the other end of the system, and not be accountable for what's being put in at the front. So maybe from grade 10 on, I know that they look at a cohort, but do we need to move that cohort together? Or does this become a little more like university? You need X number of credits, and you can line those things up as you need to and take them at the pace that you need to get them. Maybe that frees you up to enter the workforce earlier and graduate a bit earlier. Maybe it frees up time in your schedule to do other things like study art, study music, spend more time in practical and applied arts, and try a bunch of those, and do some different things, or really immerse yourself in any of the other subjects that we offer. Take more math, do those things, but give the students some flexibility and time to do that, as opposed to feeling like they have to move in this group that is fixed and all has to sort of move at the same pace. Because as Carla pointed out, some students can be done quickly, and some students need some more time, and some students just want more flexibility in what they're getting. So I think over the next few years we're going to see sort of a reconceptualization of how we structure even that.
I know for sure that university doesn't have Moodle. So I am already sweating, and I'm planning now how I'm going to adjust to the new system. Because the thing about Moodle, it allows you to move at your own pace. And sometimes I prefer to go faster, and there's some things I have to go back and look back on. Mm-hmm. But university is a little bit more edgier than that, I should say. Yeah. So it'd be kind of, I'm going to have to look forward to something else to get ready to get used to that system.
Do you think you've picked up some skills by having this blended experience that are going to benefit you at university?
For sure. Most skill that I picked up is the skill to adapt, because it's a big change from what I'm used to. So being able to adapt as quickly as possible and being able to catch up to everything else, it shows me that without procrastination, I can actually do it.
I think it's exciting to see where it'll be down the road, and I mean, I hope it just continues to grow and to expand, and it continues just to engage more students and allow more students like Ashaun to just to experience success. And I think it's not only for students who are struggling or have issues. It's even for our very, very strong and talented kids to broaden their range of options. To, I mean, the term that's thrown around now is this personalized, but it's just to give everybody more options.